15 months after the ceasefire ended, Sinn Féin and British officials are talking again. The Archbishop calls for an abortion referendum, not in an election campaign, says the Taoiseach. Democratic Left launched their election manifesto with a swingeing attack on the PDs. And we've been spending £8,000 a minute trying to get rich. Good evening and welcome. 15 months ago, the bombing that ended the IRA ceasefire also shattered negotiations between Sinn Féin and the British government. Today, the sides were back at Stormont, holding talks that lasted 3 hours. Afterwards, Sinn Féin said they had agreed in principle to meet again. Sinn Féin MP Martin McGuinness said he now had hope in dealing with the new Labour government. Northern Secretary Mo Mowlam wasn't at the meeting, but she described it as an informative discussion in which many issues were addressed.
Just mind your head there. It's 15 months since Martin McGuinness made the journey to Stormont for talks with the British government. Then those sessions were unproductive before they were halted by the end of the IRA ceasefire. Today, though, 3 hours of talks obviously produced a more encouraging resumption of that dialogue.
There are quite a number of difficulties, as you all well know, but there's a very strong desire within Sinn Féin to overcome those difficulties. We're very conscious that there is a new British government in place, and we have, I think today, made a start in attempting to overcome those difficulties.
A sentiment echoed by Mo Mowlam, who also hinted that the settlement train, which Tony Blair last week warned Sinn Féin they must be aboard, mightn't be leaving until after the talks' start-up date of June the 3rd.
We've got the question of the Irish election and how long it'll be before an Irish government is formed. So there are in parallel some other questions that need answering. Tony didn't set a specific time on the settlement train leaving, and I think what is useful and what we should look on as productive from today is that there was agreement, as you suggest, not just for another meeting, but that wasn't going to be the last one. So there is movement in the clarification process, which is good.
The last time Sinn Féin met the British government, the discussions ended in deadlock after a lengthy series of meetings. Republicans say their failure contributed to the breakdown of the IRA ceasefire. This time there's a recognition that things must move more briskly if that ceasefire is to be reinstated and Sinn Féin is to enter full-scale political negotiations.
And Mo Mowlam has visited nationalist residents' associations along the routes of the North's most contentious parades in an attempt to break the deadlock in the marching crisis. She described her meetings as informative and constructive. But the visits provoked an angry response from unionists. Ken McGuinness of the Ulster Unionist Party said her actions on polling day in the North's elections would provide a massive boost for Sinn Féin.
The North Secretary of State Mo Mowlam toured the major hotspots in the parade map, listening to the concerns of nationalist residents. Her first stop was at the village of Dunloy in County Antrim, which witnessed violent clashes between police and loyalists on Sunday after an apprentice boys' parade was stopped. In Portadown, it was handshakes and smiles with the Garvaghey Residents Association. Dr. Mowlam's handshake with Brendan McKenna is bound to infuriate many members of the Orange Order. Afterwards, he insisted talks were the only way to avoid a Drumcree 3.
Well, that'll only be achieved through dialogue, and unless the Orange Order is willing to sit down with us and talk, I can't answer that question.
So you're not optimistic then at this stage?
Well, as I said, time is getting closer and closer all the time to Drumcree. We're only 6 weeks away.
After a third and final meeting with the Lower Ormore Residents Association in South Belfast, Dr. Mowlam outlined her reasons for the visits.
The way we will move difficult situations forward is local negotiation and local settlement. No one can sit above and say, it's going to be wonderful. That's not how it works.
The visits angered the DUP leader Ian Paisley. He said Mo Mowlam's decision to run to Dunloy and offer comfort and succour to the lawbreakers was a shameful decision.
Democratic Left launched their